welcome to Jesus Retold, episode 2. I'm your host, Bethany Brown, bringing you Bible stories of some of your favorite characters and maybe some not so favorable tales. Here we like to tell the truth and the whole truth. We don't like to leave out the details. So today we're going to look at Jacob and his two wives, Rachel and Leah, and see if we can relate to their tale at all. And joining me today is my co-host. She is a stand-up comic, actress, writer, and producer. Please welcome Nelia Linick.
Thank you. Hi.
All right. So Nelia, are you familiar with Jacob, Rachel,
Oh yeah,
and
do you
Leah?
not see my smile?
Oh, okay, so you're ready for this. You're like...
I'm excited. I mean, yes, I've heard the story many times growing up in church.
Okay.
And there's actually like a really beautiful song that like in my culture they sing about it. Like about Jacob. It's like Jacob crying out for Rachel.
Oh my gosh.
It's so soulful and beautiful. I love it.
And for those in the audience,
it's a tearjerker. Maybe one day I'll sing it to you.
I hope one day she does sing it to you. I want to be serenaded by this.
Dude, I actually should have prepared it. Whatever. We'll do the story again.
Okay.
Alright. But yeah, this story is fun and triggering. Not that, I haven't been married to the same man as my sisters.
Listen, if you're going to have multiple wives, being married to, sisters is probably not the best course of action. It's why you actually rarely see it.
It's like, why would you marry into sibling rivalry? That's
this
such
man
a
didn't
recipe
choose
for
it.
disaster.
He didn't, as you guys are going to find out, it wasn't by choice. I'll tell you that much.
Well, we're going to find out.
Are you going to find out? Are you ready?
Let's do it, yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Alright, so we're going to start off with Jacob, and I'm really just going to give you a snapshot of these people's lives. I'm not going to go into a lot of history of who Jacob is. We're going to cover a lot that deals with him throughout this podcast. But as of right now, Jacob's the guy who's working for his cousin Laban in the field, and he meets his daughter Rachel, who's a shepherdess, and he falls madly in love with her, and his uncle tells him that if he works for him for 7 years, that he can then marry his daughter Rachel. So this man loves this woman so much, how about that, ladies, that he works 7 years to be able to marry her. And upon their wedding night...
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, go for it.
Did you just say she's his cousin? Wait, no, what?
Oh yeah, it's his uncle. Both of these girls are not only sisters, but cousins.
Quite heated. Okay.
So he works 7 years, and on his wedding night, Laban tricks him and tells him that it's part of their culture to turn off all of the lights in the house. And you may be wondering if they're cousins. Why didn't he know that? Jacob grew up somewhere else, and he was sort of a very distant relative and grew up in a different land. So to him, he wasn't sure what their customs were when marrying. So he believed him, and everyone at the wedding actually knew that he was about to get punked. So they turn off all the lights, and Laban switches out Rachel, the woman that he loves, for his daughter Leah, who is recorded in the Bible and the book of Jasher as not being very attractive. So he wakes up the next day and realizes that he's with the wrong sister. Not only the wrong sister, but the sister that he doesn't love. And in order to actually be with Rachel, the one whom he does love, he has to work another 7 years.
So wait,
Yeah. Whoa. Wait a second.
Pause, break, stop. So Jacob and Rachel have like a wedding together. People are like, they're getting married.
Yeah.
And then the night of like their wedding
when the consummation is supposed to happen, Laban tricks him, and not just like the lights in the bedroom. He's like, we're going to turn off the lights in the entire house, like the entire place. It's our custom to do so.
Wait, how much of this did Rachel know? We don't know.
Well,
what happened to her? Did she get kidnapped and like...
Rachel get kidnapped?
No, I'm just making things up. I'm saying, what?
We don't know.
We don't know. We can't figure it out right now. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to get into that. But
these details.
My brain is going crazy. So.
Right. So, okay. So as you can tell, not a great start. So then...
A very solid one.
What
a hook for a story.
So, and then to sort of complicate things, the woman that Jacob loves and has worked so hard to marry turns out to be barren. And the woman whom he doesn't love, Leah, is not. So now we have a sister, Leah, who's unloved but can bear children. The other sister who has the husband's heart but can't give him children. So as you can tell, it's heating up in the house, to say the least, between the two sisters. So Rachel, in order to bear Jacob's sons, gives her handmaid to Jacob to sleep with him. And her handmaid bears him 2 sons. And then she says to her sister, sort of in your face, like, now I've given my husband everything. And so her sister says back to her, well, now that you've taken his heart and the ability to bear children by you, I'm going to give him my handmaid. So now Jacob is sleeping with Leah's handmaid, and she bears him children as well. All right, and we're going to pause here for a second.
It's a lot of work for Jacob.
It's a lot of work for Jacob, but also to sort of explain something. Clearly, Rachel's not the one bearing him children. But back then, if you were someone's servant, you were so owned that even your children did not belong to you. Those children were viewed as Rachel's children. So just to kind of give an understanding of the times that they were living in and what it would have been like to be the handmaid. Yeah, like, oh, hey, by the way.
The servants had any kind of freedom.
No, you have to sleep with my husband. You have to bear children. Oh, and by the way, they're not yours. They're mine. Just just give you a couple seconds to think about that.
Oh, you're my servant. You're also my surrogate. Forgot to mention that in the contract. Fine print.
Fine print. And then, of course, the jealous sister gives her maid, and it goes on and ensues. And then the story gets a little bit better, though. There is a part that I actually really like. Which
we're all hoping. We're like, where? When is it gonna come?
When's it gonna come? So Rachel is still so sad that she was never able to bear her own children, that she cries out to God, and it says that God remembers her and opens up her womb and gives her the ability to bear children. And she bears Joseph, who's a very famous Bible figure, which we'll talk about more. And we'll get into that. But
One
Joseph,
of my favorites.
Oh yeah. Joseph is sadly not sadly. Joseph, so, all right, just to give you a picture of this family, there's like 10 kids now before Joseph
There's
is
a lot.
born.
The sisters got competitive.
Yeah, they got mad competitive. Like, Leah's busting out kids. These are just the sons. I'm not even mentioning the daughters.
No, Leah's having them.
Leah
she's also
like,
using her servants. She's doubling
she
down.
She is, and
Poor
very,
Rachel is like, I couldn't have kids. That's why I did this.
Right, and the thing is we can feel bad for Leah, but at the same time,
I feel bad
Jacob
for Rachel
never loved Leah, and so. Yeah, I feel worse off for Rachel, who actually loved Jacob in turn and was put in this awful situation by her father, who she probably back then didn't even have the right really to refuse
to do much about the situation. That's really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I feel for Leah 10%, but 90% I feel for Rachel. It's rough.
So Leah, what is sad and where we can feel kind of bad for Leah is that, which I haven't added in the story, but I'll tell you guys. In the Bible, it says that Jacob hated her. Like, she was hated and probably hated by her sister. And
Sorry,
then
Leah, just kidding.
That God actually, really felt bad for her, and that's why he gave her the ability to have so many children.
I see.
But what's really sad is that she thought that with each kid that she had, and maybe I did say that, she thought that with each kid that she had for Jacob, that he would grow attached to her, and he never did. And it's really heartbreaking. And then so fast forward, the love of his life finally has a child, and that child is put on a pedestal above all the other kids, which will be another episode. So now it's like,
All the
other 10 boys are like, our dad doesn't even love us.
Adding more and more salt to
talking
that
about some
wound.
family trauma we got going on here. But to get back to the ladies, so they're throwing their maidservants at Jacob. Kids are being born everywhere. Rachel finally has a kid. But one of Leah's sons brings home this type of nightshade. I forget what it's called. But it was like a really wanted vegetable, basically. And
man something.
It's man something. And Rachel wants it so badly that she says, here, I'll trade you sleeping with my husband tonight for your son's vegetable that he brought home. And I wish I could remember the name because it was believed in like ancient times to have magical powers.
Do you have your phone on you?
I do, actually. Yeah.
It should be your phone.
It is. Oh, actually, it might be right here. Oh, wait, here. Wait, guys. I'm going to read you because this is so great. So the vegetable is called a mandrake. And it says, so when Jacob came in from the fields that evening, Leah went out to meet him. You must sleep with me, she said. I have hired you with my son's mandrakes. So he slept with her that night. I love this idea of hiring your husband to sleep with you. And him not being able to refuse because it was like
laughed too hard, maybe.
It wasn't even true. I don't know who ran that household. Was it Jacob or was it these two ladies who were like, I feel like Leah and Rachel had a pretty tight.
It sounds like the girls were in charge, but also like he was in their land, right? And he was still working for their father. Was he? At this time? They're still like doing life together. So he's like with that family. So he's kind of probably doing a lot to oblige.
So we'll get into this. He eventually does leave the dad, and that doesn't go very well. And there's almost a war that breaks out, but we'll get into that later.
The story gets bigger.
Like the story gets very, very intense later on. But I kind of wanted to stop it here. So Nelia, hearing the story about these sisters, you're one of how many sisters do you have?
I have 5 sisters.
You have
so 6 girls
sisters and 1 boy.
Brother.
All right. What do you think about this? I mean, how are you feeling right now?
I don't like it.
Okay.
I imagined having a wedding day with the guy I love. Like he's worked his butt off for literally 7 years to be with me. We waited for a while. We waited 7 years to be with this guy, and then on the wedding night, my dad tricks him and tricks me. I'm sure I wasn't. If I was Rachel, I'm sure I wasn't aware of the plan. And then I have to wait another 7 years watching him be married to one of my sisters.
Now, question.
That's so tough.
Hold on. Honestly, answer this.
Sure.
If you had to be married to the same man as one of your sisters, which sister?
Not gonna answer.
Which sister would
No.
it
They would see this and murder me.
be? Alright, we're not gonna.
They wouldn't. Love you guys.
No, she's Ukrainian. Anything's possible. So.
That's funny. I actually will think about it and answer it to you privately.
I'm gonna let you guys know. I have one sister, and I remember feeling that like New York City wasn't big enough for the both of us. So if we were married to the same man, I'm here to tell you that man would be so terrified. I
would do everything.
I just can't even imagine how scary that existence would be for everyone in that household.
That would be the same for me and pretty much any of my sisters. They're all so different, so many different personalities, but I can't imagine it being easy on the guy. Powerful women, is that what we're saying? We come from a line of strong girls. So does Leah and Rachel.
Yeah, we're not dissing our siblings. We're just stating
Powerful.
It would be quite something.
I also was thinking about the angle. Well, 2 things. The fact that Rachel was a shepherdess. That's really cool. I don't think we hear a lot about women being shepherds or shepherdesses.
Yeah, we do.
In the Bible, so that was kind of intriguing and great. But then also just the rough times for women. Like they did not have any rights. I mean, I'm sure I can imagine, and as we're hearing from the story, there was ways they manipulated situations and things, you know. Women, we find our way. But it's heartbreaking that they had no rights.
Yeah,
like on your wedding night, your dad basically like takes your groom away from you and gives your groom to your sister, in a sense.
Who he
if you
probably
put it in like Rachel's terms.
Who the dad probably felt he was never going to be able to marry off. Like, how sad to be the daughter where you're a weight, you're a burden.
And your dad has to like conspire something crazy to marry you off.
Yeah.
Like what if Leah just didn't get married, you know, but like that wasn't allowed back then or something. Or I mean that's a whole cultural side note, but yeah, women's rights is real far behind there.
Yeah. And I'm really excited because for our next episode, we're actually going to get into the life of one of Leah's daughters who had a really interesting story that I'm really excited about. Some of the things that I do miss about culture in those days, which we're going to get into, is if something happened that you didn't
you just took care of it.
You just kind of went to war. It was like, oh, you did something that I don't like, now I'm going to fight you. And then when it was taken care of, it was taken care of. Whereas now, if something really does happen to a loved one that you care about, you have to go through a court, you have to prove it.
You have to go through a legal system. Half the time faulty.
Yeah.
If not more than half the time.
Right.
And so many factors come into play. But yeah, I feel like the warrior aspect is real ideal in our minds. I think like that really brings out your Irish and my Ukrainian. Like, wait, what? You did what to my sister?
Right.
You did what to my brother? Like, you were so ready to fight.
I'm not scared of her or
fight.
anything, guys. She doesn't scare me in the slightest.
I'm not that scary.
No, she actually doesn't. No, it's fine.
We're both fighters. MMA.
She could boxing over here. Yeah. So it's really cool. I just love, I really loved that just snapshot of these people's lives and just this
I love how they weren't, I do admire how it shows that the women were in control, even though it was a very uncomfortable situation for them. And they had to deal with it, so they found a way to deal with it. Right.
That's true. And what was really crazy, and what we will get into on some future episodes, is Jacob never does come to love Leah, and Rachel actually ends up passing away first. And even after Rachel is dead, like, he won't sleep in Leah's tent, and one of his sons goes bananas. Reuben goes ballistic and loses his blessing.
Reuben gets mad about what? About his...
Reuben gets mad about the fact that even after Rachel's passing, like, so Rachel, I guess, would have kind of been like the more favored, like, first wife, meaning he slept in the same bed with Rachel more often than not. And then Rachel passes away, sadly, which I'm not going to tell you how. And even after she passes away, he still doesn't want to sleep with Leah in the same bed. So he takes Rachel's maidservant instead, and Reuben like goes into their tent and like throws,
I can see how that's an issue.
Loses it, just goes ballistic and destroys their entire home or whatever.
Whoa.
So it clearly was also really painful to the kids that their dad so obviously
did not want to be with their
mom. Did not
mom.
care to be with their mom. Really, in it sounds like any capacity.
Those family dynamics are so heavy.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
it's not reminding me of my own home or family or anything like that. It's totally fine.
No,
it's
we
actually
are
not,
blessed.
thankfully.
Have
Thankfully, that is not.
way better lives.
But
than Leah and Rachel.
Yeah, and really, and these maidservants, though, I really just the idea that they were 100% owned and seen as property.
And they were just ready to go for it, or not ready. I mean, they had to.
They had to.
I don't want to imagine living in those times.
Yeah.
As Rachel or Leah
And
or as the maidservant.
Can you guys say, hold on, would you be like, hey, so I'm barren. I need you to go sleep with my husband.
Is that cool?
Is that cool? And then after you give birth to like your guys' child together, it's really my child.
Yeah. So, and like, if you, in case you get pregnant, you're gonna be my surrogate, even though it's your genes.
Right, even though it's actually your child.
Am I gonna pay you for it? No.
Well,
I won't kill you, though.
I feed you. I feed you. I feed you.
Alive.
I feed you. I provide housing for you. Okay? You're in.
What more do you want?
I let you sleep with my husband, okay?
It's an added bonus, is what you're saying.
I think that's also a super intriguing thing to think about, how these women were just like throwing their maidservants at their husbands.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
It's like not a big deal.
Right, and that wasn't always the case. There are other stories where you'll see where that wasn't okay or the case. But these women were very competitive.
They were competitive and desperate.
Yeah, desperate.
Well, Rachel was desperate.
So desperate.
She really wanted to have children with him.
Yeah.
And then, you know, obviously there's the competition with the sister. So she kind of stooped to some levels. Wait, you know what I just thought?
What? What?
You know how they
Nelia.
Should I not?
No, yes, go ahead. Absolutely.
You know how the women had their female servants and they had them sleep with Jacob?
Mm-hmm.
The women also have male servants that maybe they themselves slept with.
So that's
I feel like
a
I could
great
imagine
question.
Leah doing something like that.
Mm.
Like if I were Leah, if I had to put myself in her position, the heartbreak is so real. It's just like constant rejection.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much all my
really
life,
rough.
all your life. I
So
wonder
sad.
if they had certain rights to where they did that.
I have
Also,
this,
we're not like advocating.
we're wondering
like,
this. I
all
have
these things.
this
We're just like
slight,
analyzing, speculating.
I have a slight feeling that the women.
I believe in love.
I have a slight feeling, and granted, this isn't based. I'd have to do a lot of research that the women weren't given those rights. However, we are going to talk about Joseph, Rachel's son. Rachel's going to be very beautiful, and Joseph is recorded in the Bible and the book of Jasher as being like pretty stunning. And there is a time in his life where he becomes a slave and he's owned, and the owner's wife wants to sleep with him and he doesn't want to sleep with her, and she's like, how dare you as a slave reject me. But had he slept with her, he could have also been murdered
by her
if the
husband.
husband wanted to. So I think basically being a slave back then, I think all around, being a slave whenever all around has always been
not
a fun or winning situation. So yeah. But any other thoughts, Naya? Did you just figure out your sister?
No, you know. Okay.
I know there's a sister. I know there's one where you're like, I could live with her. So you also have to think about more than just like, you have to think about who you can live with the best.
Yes.
You know.
There are 5 that I have to think about, so.
Your sister was so offended, like, Bethany, how could you think that this was easy for her? I'm like, I know you have a favorite sibling, do you not? Or I don't.
Of course not. Okay, so with Jacob, when like Leah approaches him, she's like, by the way, you're mine tonight. It sounds so shallow, but I think it's interesting to me that Jacob's just like obliged and he went with it. And I wonder why. Was he like in a good mood? What do you think? Was he like down with it? He needed to have a good time with one of his wives?
Right,
Was it because he knew that it came, quote unquote, from Rachel? Like she made the deal with Rachel, so he's like, all right, so you made the deal with my girl. I gotta do it because my girl said I should. I don't know.
I have this slight feeling. It's just a
Do you
feeling,
think he like? Do you think
hypothetically speaking?
Do you think there was any resistance from Jacob?
I think that Jacob didn't want to, but that there's probably so much drama in his home all the time that for him to say no would have created
more.
There probably would have been a fight. Rachel would be like, I'm not sleeping with you. I made this deal with her. You're not even allowed to be in the tent with me. He was probably like, You know?
Yes.
I mean, that's just a gut feeling. But you just hit on something really interesting that you said there that made me think of another story, but I just lost it.
I don't know.
I
said quite a few things actually in a short stance.
Here is the thing. So I do think that because of a lot of this drama, it's why over time the idea of having multiple wives, it's one of the reasons that I think that it has kind of gone down in popularity. And I have met with a lot of people who can have multiple wives, and they, the ones who don't always joke, because in the one that I have is enough. And I'm like, yeah, but you have so many more. He's like, good.
Yeah,
I think it gets complicated.
It makes sense. I feel like if we
think,
asked any of my exes, I think as a girlfriend I was enough. More than enough.
Right, I think nowadays it gets super complicated having multiple wives, right? So, yeah.
I feel like that was expensive all the time, but especially now.
Yes. I think back then, your heritage, your life, it really was your kids. They were the ones who carried everything on and carried everything forward, and they were seen as such a blessing and such an important part of life that I think, as far as, you know, finances went, I think it was like the more the merrier, the more hands, the more people to work to grow. I mean, to grow the vegetables, a field, to tend to the flocks. Like, there was so much you had to do. Yeah, that's why I'm gonna have so many kids. Put them all in a little station. This computer's for you, that one's for you. You're gonna do my report over here today, and you're gonna take care of this.
Watch out for her. She doesn't have any kids yet, so what is it? Child protective. CPS, you guys can relax. She's not married yet.
I'm gonna have multiple husbands and
multiple levels.
Yeah.
This has been a very fun story time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me today. I love
Very much my pleasure.
Okay, wonderful. Guys, thank you for joining in with us today here at Jesus Retold. We have more fun, more episodes coming, so stay in contact with us. Nelia Linick is your co-host, and your host, Bethany Brown. Thank you.
God bless.
God bless.